Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this channel with others.
Rain drizzled against the glass towers of Liverpool Street, London's business heart. Cars hissed through puddles, umbrellas collided, and people hurried past without looking up. Outside the revolving doors of Harrington and Cook, a man sat quietly beneath the gray awning. His coat was torn, his shoes were mismatched, and a small cardboard sign rested against his knees. Sign, trying to get back on my feet. Thank you. He wasn't shouting or begging, just sitting still, eyes lowered, hands clasped together. A paper cup beside him collected more raindrops than coins. Inside those glass doors, Michael Harrington, the company's CEO, was living an entirely different reality. Tall, in his early 40s, every inch of him radiated confidence, or at least the performance of it. His suit was tailored, his tie immaculate, his phone glued to his ear. Michael into phone. No, Richard, we'll move the merger meeting to Monday. Yes, tell them I'll only sign if the numbers meet my projection. He pushed through the lobby without looking at anyone. The receptionist offered a polite good morning, but he didn't respond. As he entered the lift, his assistant Lara stepped in behind him, balancing 2 coffees and a tablet. Lara. Morning, sir. I noticed the man's still outside again. The one by the door. Michael looked up briefly from his phone. Michael. Homeless? Lara. Yes, he's been there since Monday. Michael, shrugging. It's London, Lara. They're everywhere. Council's problem, not ours. The lift doors closed. Up on the 23rd floor, Michael's office was a panorama of the city. Glass, steel, and clouds. Success reflected in every corner, but behind the shine, something was off. Numbers were dropping. Investors were growing impatient. A major contract had fallen through the week before. Still, Michael wasn't the type to worry. He was the type to push harder, work later, demand more. At lunch, he stood by the window sipping his coffee, staring down at the street below. And there, through the blur of pedestrians, he saw the man again. Same spot, same stillness. For a brief moment, their eyes met through the glass. Michael looked away first. Later that day, as Michael left for a client dinner, he saw the homeless man helping a woman pick up papers blown from her briefcase. The man smiled faintly as he handed them back. The woman thanked him and slipped a coin into his cup. Lara, quietly. He's always polite, you know. Doesn't bother anyone. Michael, impatient. Politeness doesn't pay rent. Everyone's got a story. Doesn't mean I can fix it. But as he walked past, the man looked up. There was something in his eyes, familiarity, recognition. For a second, Michael froze. The man's lips parted like he wanted to speak. But before he could, Michael turned away, stepping into his waiting black car. He didn't look back. That night, the rain fell harder. The city blurred under streetlights. Michael slept soundly in his Kensington flat, unaware that just a few streets away, the man outside his building was quietly slipping away from the world. The next morning, everything changed. When Michael stopped at a corner cafe to grab his coffee, his eyes fell on the newspaper stand beside the till. Headline, Homeless Man Found Dead Outside City Office, Former Employee of Harrington & Co. Michael froze. His fingers went cold. The front page photo showed the man's face, pale, lifeless, rain-soaked. Below it, the name printed in bold letters, David Harper. Michael's heart dropped. He knew that name. David Harper, one of his former analysts. Brilliant, reliable, quiet. Laid off 3 years ago during budget cuts. And now, he was gone. The morning meeting was a blur. Investors droned through numbers, but Michael couldn't hear a word. He sat at the head of the boardroom table, the newspaper folded beside his notes like a stain he couldn't hide. Investor. Michael, you're unusually quiet. Everything all right? Michael, forcing a smile. Fine, just lack of sleep. When the meeting ended, he didn't return to his office. Instead, he took the lift down, past the polished marble floors, past the lobby security, and stepped out into the rain. He stopped at the very spot where David used to sit. The ground was damp, the air heavy. A few wilted flowers and a candle marked the place now. Michael crouched down slowly. For the first time, he noticed the small details. The scuff marks on the pavement where the cardboard had been. The faint ring left by the paper cup. Lara, approaching softly. "Sir, the press are asking for a comment." Michael. "Tell them we're deeply saddened. That'll be enough." Lara, hesitant. "He worked here once. People might expect—" Or Michael looked up sharply. He was an employee, not a friend. But even as he said it, the words felt wrong. Later that afternoon, he called HR Michael. "Do we still have Harper's file?" HR rep over phone. "Yes, sir. He was with us 5 years. Strong performance reviews. Left after the redundancies." Michael. "Did anyone stay in touch?" HR rep. "Not that we know of." He tried emailing once. "Something about references, I think." Michael's throat tightened. "And no one replied?" HR rep. "It was a busy quarter, sir. I suppose it slipped through." He hung up slowly. The guilt pressed down heavier than the clouds outside. He remembered David now. The way he'd stay late, quietly correcting spreadsheets others had rushed. The calm voice in meetings, the tired smile, and he remembered that day, the layoffs. The way David had stood across the desk, his hands trembling slightly. David, memory. "I understand, sir, just if you could keep me in mind for future roles." Michael. "Of course, David, you'll land on your feet." Except he hadn't. As night fell, Michael found himself walking through the rain again. He stopped at a small cafe near the office, the kind of place where David used to grab cheap lunches. A waitress approached. "Evening, love." "What'll it be?" Michael. "Coffee black." She poured it and glanced at the newspaper he carried. "Terrible what happened, isn't it? He used to come in here. Never caused trouble. Always asked about everyone's day." Michael looked up. "You knew him?" She nodded. "Sweet man. Talked about working in finance once. Said he was hoping to get back there. I guess life just didn't give him the break." The cafe fell quiet. The rain tapped against the window. Michael. "Did he ever say anything about this place? My office?" Waitress. "Only that he used to pass it sometimes. Said it reminded him of who he used to be." Michael's chest tightened. He stared into his coffee, but all he saw was that face on the front page. The next morning, Michael arrived early. The city was still waking up. Buses humming, coffee carts opening. He stood outside the building, right where David had once sat. For the first time in years, he didn't rush. He just stood there. Lara approached quietly. "Sir, you're early." Michael. "I couldn't sleep." He looked at the empty pavement. "He was one of ours, Lara. I let him go, and he ended up here, right here." Lara hesitated. "You couldn't have known." Michael. "No, but I could have seen him." A silence lingered between them. Heavy but honest. Later that day, Michael gathered his executive team. Michael, voice steady. "I want to start something new. A fund, training programs, housing assistance, for people like David Harper, people who lost their footing." Finance director. "With respect, sir, that's not our line of business." Michael. "It is now. We're calling it the Harper Initiative." The room went silent. Lara, softly. "I think he'd like that." Over the next weeks, the initiative grew. The company funded retraining workshops, partnered with shelters, and began hiring through outreach programs. It wasn't just a press move. It was personal. Michael began visiting the shelter every Friday evening. At first, he stayed quiet, observing, listening. Over time, he started to talk. He met men and women who had once had stable jobs, families, mortgages, until life fell apart one decision at a time. One night, as he handed out cups of soup, a young man looked at him curiously. "Bernice, you run that big firm, don't you?" "Harrington and Co.?" Michael. "I do." Man, smiling faintly. "Didn't think someone like you would be down here." Michael. "Neither did I." They both laughed quietly. Outside, the city glowed in the drizzle. Neon reflections on wet pavement. People passing by unaware that a man once too busy to notice was now learning to see. Months later, a small bronze plaque appeared beside the office entrance. Employees paused to read it as they entered each morning. Plaque inscription, "In memory of David Harper," a reminder that success means nothing if we forget our humanity. Every morning, Michael stopped there. Sometimes he placed a coffee cup beside the flowers. Sometimes he just stood silently, remembering. He had once built a company that measured worth in profits and numbers. Now he was building something different, something that couldn't be calculated on a balance sheet. As the sun rose over the glass towers, Michael looked up and whispered, "I see you now, David." The wind carried the words away, but somehow, he felt they had been heard. Moral: true success isn't measured by what we build, but by who we choose to see.